lift it up and
open it up and clap it. There you go. That's all it takes.
you know that's a start.
One, two, three, four.
My name is Jack Fleischer. I grew up collecting records. It was always like a huge part of my life. And in my early 20s, I got really interested in self-released albums. A lot of people call them private press, going out to, thrifts and digging up these like wild looking albums that, and wild sounding album stuff where you'd be like, God, who are these people? I got kind of just curious. I was like, I really want to like get into this more. And it was really early on. I think it was one of my first couple buying trips when I found that Dreamin Wild album. So it was early on. It was maybe the first or second time that I went out to Spokane. I had, this was before the iPhone might have been out. I didn't have one. So I would, print out this list of an itinerary to hit, 400 thrift stores in 10 hours or whatever from open to close. And, it was like a classic thing where it was like, I remember it's kind of a snowy day. It was getting dark. I really didn't want to have to go over the mountain in the snow in the dark. But, that antique store, like right by the freeway, like it's still open. Like, gotta go. And I went into this antique store and it was, it really was not the kind of place that you usually find good records. And there was a box of records, and it was kind of like just really, budget classical music and Mantovani and that kind of stuff. And then it was surreal. I like looked over, there was a bureau, and Dreamin Wild was displayed on the bureau, like in a little, like leaned up against like a lamp or something. And I was like, oh, wow, look at that. That looks really interesting. There's always more to a story than meets the eye, and it's that joy of discovery as you start to get hints and pieces. And when it's not at all what you expected it would look like, to me, that's like, it became the fun of it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
There is indeed a great story to the record Jack found that day. It's a story of hard work, family, dedication, and eventually recognition. I'm Don Emerson Sr., father of Donnie and Joe Emerson, and you're listening to Liner Notes, the Dreamin Wild story.
Did you have a good time while it lasted? Did it make you feel like you were on top of the world? Did you feel good if you ever man now? Did it make you feel like a fool? Did you have a good time? Did you have a good time, love? Did you have a good time? Did you have a good time, love? Did you have a good time?
Between 1977 and 1979, my two sons, Donnie and Joe, recorded and released Dreamin Wild, a rock and roll record produced entirely in a studio we built on our farm in Fruitland, Washington. Despite their hard work and dreams of stardom, they didn't find the success they imagined. In fact, it nearly cost our family farm. Little did we know that 30 years later, all the hard work would pay off. Dreamin Wild would be discovered with new appreciation, reissued on Light in the Attic Records, and even made into a major motion picture.
Oh, man.
We grew up on a small farm.
Yeah, well, it wasn't small. It was 1,700 acres.
Yeah, that's
pretty
small.
good size.
Yeah, it's good size for this area, anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
We changed irrigation pipes and cut hay and
We did everything that you do on the farm pretty
pitch
much.
fence.
A lot of time. There was a lot of time in between things. We had a lot of freedom on this farm.
Being away from everything that the city life has. I mean, we were pretty protected from outside influences.
Very isolated. I remember being on the tractor. That's when we got a tractor that had a radio in it. I'd listen to that sucker, and I would picture myself doing those songs, This is what Dad always said. To really get the most out of your mind, you got to have some physical work. If you don't got physical work, you can't free your mind. And what Dad would always say, you got to get out there. Come on, we're going to pick rocks today, and we're going to go out here, and we're going to go do the irrigation pipes, and then we're going to build fence, and then after that, you can go do your thing. Wow. Mind was free. You're just exhausted, and everything just bam.
I seen the interest they took in the music and how creative they was. Of course, I was a type of a person that tried to support my kids. They had to do their chores and all that, but when they done the music and whatnot, I wanted to support them. We started at the house, and then that got too much in the house with all the instruments, so then we went to the Grange Hall. And it was being used all the time, sometimes 3 or 4 nights a week. So it seemed like it was getting a little friction between the Grange members, some of them and us, so I said, well, we got to do something. So I said, well, we'll just build you a studio to practice in. That's a good idea. So, of course, I was a logger, and so the material was available, and I had a friend saw the lumber out for us, and we built the studio here.
Boy, if it wasn't for Dad and Mom and the money, putting this little building together for us and equipping it with equipment, it was in probably close to $100,000.
When you're on a farm, it's a community thing. It's a community affair, and that means we got to sacrifice together. And that's what we did on the farm. There was a lot of investment, yes, there was, but there was a lot of work that went in to compensate that investment. And my father knew that, and he respected that.
Oh, give me a chance to come and love you. Oh, give me a chance to give me some time. Sweet Lord, don't you know? Gonna be over pretty soon. People shouting, bang, playing, making my drumming beat so blue.
Of course, Donnie and Joe, they were practicing practically every day. And They spent a lot of time in the studio, hours upon hours. And it's not because I never told them to practice. They just practice all the time. Every time that he come back home with a new song, I was overwhelmed with how it was advancing and getting so much better all the time. It really was. After a while, you feel committed that you want to do something with them, and that's what I said to him. I said, now, I don't want you just to go play in the bars and whatnot. I want you to do something that you can make a living at. So that's why we made a commitment, and we signed agreements between us that we would do this.
It was Dad's suggestion. He says, well, if you boys want to be playing music, he says, I'm all for the music, but he says, I really want you guys to do your own records. Well,
I know
we
Dad
were
was
all
like
naive
that.
about the music business, and really Dad had
I think Dad
not
had,
much of an idea about what to do.
well, I
but,
think Dad had more ambition about it than we did.
It was Dad's idea to do the record.
Yeah, Dad.
And so that's how it started as well. We're going to do a record. That was really Dad's idea.
Seems to know I love you, yeah. Nobody seems to know I really care. I will try to explain this, honey, yeah, but my words never could. Hey, baby. Seems to me I don't let you down. Maybe
I would lock myself. It was not lock myself in this room. I wanted to be in into this room, and it was like a painter. Just I could just do anything I wanted to do without anybody bothering me. You know, it was just. I wanted to see people come around, but I was so engulfed in what I was doing. The tones, setting the equalizers and everything. And it was just amazed me. You know, I was just like completely fascinated by how it was. It just, now looking back, it was just so much freedom of recording this album. And I felt like I was connected to something. I don't want to say some kind of mystical thing. I'm not trying to say that, okay? But in a sense, I almost kind of have. I gotta say it.
oh yeah.
You just start thinking about what you can do to create new sounds. You know, I mean, as a kid, you know, kids have imagination. Different than what we are when we get older. We get jaded, we go one directional. Kids don't have that. They're omnidirectional. They go everywhere. There's no boundaries.
When I first heard the record, I was just stunned. I couldn't seem to even be able to express myself. And we went through so much to do it, you know, without words.
Love is a word you say to one another. Even sometimes it isn't true. How many times have I said it to you? And your mind was on someone else.
How long did it take us to record that record, Don?
Maybe a year and a half.
Probably a year and a half. Year and a half to record the record.
Yeah.
Probably about that long. Yeah.
Yeah, it was about a year and a half, I think. I remember the first time we got it done and took it up to the school, and they didn't think nothing of it. They just says, yeah, whatever. What's that all about?
How many times have I said it to you? And your mind was on someone else.
The hopes for that album, when that album was made, we had plans that we were going to sell that album.
And everything was going to be great.
We really didn't know how to really go about it.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know what to do.
So it was like, what are we going to do? We were still kind of kids, and Beans were still kids. At the time, I mean, we did that album. That's quite an achievement for some young characters. But we didn't have game plans. What we were going to do with the album. Are we going to go out? We're going to pedal it, or
we had
whatever?
No clue. The thing is, we obviously wanted to be famous. Come on,
we had
every
dreams.
Every kid that plays music, when you hit that stage and you're playing, you just I thrive off of it. I love it. It's a high beyond anything. And when someone connects to you, boy, you just want that. That's what I wanted. I wanted to be. I thought, man, this is going to be amazing. You know, that's just me.
We wanted to hear that record play
on the radio.
That's what we wanted to hear.
Love is for all the good things in the hand. Love is for all the things we used to say.
We didn't have any concept idea of how things were supposed to be done. We were our own record company. We were our own record label. And so we were naive about the whole business. We were very naive. But but we did place a few in a few stores. But most of those, we went back to the stores and picked them up because they didn't sell.
Till the stars lighted.
Not a whole lot happened to that record. It just
kind of...
It got made.
It got shelved. It just kind of sat there, didn't it, Joey?
It just ended up in Dad's basement. And
we were just so engulfed in recording music that we just thought that, well, I suppose they're going to call us. And it never happened.
Some people think good isn't over. I guess I'm one of those who does. No worries, no shadows. What a life I hate it. 'Cause I'd give anything in life. If I could be next to you tomorrow.
I know we made some mistakes, but I'm not sorry that we done it, because we were naive. I admit that. And we spent a lot of money, probably shouldn't have. But I seen the results, what we was getting, and it was great. They just was really awesome, you might say, in their recordings. for that time to step into a studio and record something on your own without anybody else telling you how to do it. I think it's amazing, and I truly believe this.
Of dreams.
When you do an album like that, you think, oh, wow, I just did an album.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's going to be amazed with this album.
They weren't.
And they weren't.
I mean, maybe one day they will be.
When we're out in the moonlight, looking out for the stars above, feels so good when I'm near you, holding hands and making love, oh baby, yes, oh baby. Yes, oh baby. Yes, oh baby. Sandy Beach was making love as the tide goes in on us. Feels so good walking side by side. Wanna be with you all my life, oh baby. Yes, oh baby. Yes, oh baby. Yes, oh baby. Yes, oh baby.
So about 30 years went by before anything was happening about that album. When Jack Flesher called, it was quite a surprise.
It was really early on. I think it was one of my first couple buying trips when I found that Dreamin Wild album. It really hit home at that time. It really like connected with me, and I became motivated to find the family and, you know, pass it on to friends. And I went to the Missoula Public Library and got out a phone book for Spokane. You know, it's like that magical thing of where you're like, I gotta know what this was all about. And so then the universe is kind of like, you will. Well, it might be a little bit of like a puzzle to get there. I mean, I've often thought, well, someone else could have found the record or whatever, but the, you know, the timing is a whole piece, and there's kind of a magic to the link, you know, the you know, the way that music makes its way from person to person, and you know, where people are at when they hear a song, or I know I've listened to things, you know, everybody has experience if you're into music where you're like, God, I listened to this 10 years ago and I thought it was terrible, and then now you're like, this is the greatest song ever. It's the story. The story plus great music is, I feel like, what made Donnie and Joe this like well-known thing, well beyond record collectors.
Oh baby, don't go loving nobody else. Don't go loving nobody else, oh baby. nobody else. Can't you see I need you? Don't love nobody else, oh baby, don't go loving nobody else. Don't love nobody else, oh baby, don't go loving nobody else. Can't you see I need you? What's wrong with you, honey? I thought it was alright.
Some of the collectors started calling me and asked me if we had records, and I said yes, and if I would sell them. And we sold a few. And then one of the collectors asked me if I would mind if he gave Matt my phone number, and I said, sure, I'll talk to him.
This is Matt Sullivan from Light in the Attic.
I first heard Dreamin Wild. I was at a friend's house in Los Angeles, and we were sitting around listening to music. And this was my friend Andy Zacks and Zach Cowie. And I always wanted to make a compilation of kids' music, but very adult-sounding kids' music. And they pulled out the Dreamin Wild LP, and I just saw the cover and was, like, what in the heck is this? And they played it, and it was honestly exactly what I had hoped for, of like this very mature sounding teenage music in a way. It blew my mind far beyond my wild expectations of that record, especially looking at the album cover. So that was kind of the thing. And Andy and Zach, they had bought copies from maybe Jack Fleischer or Douglas McGowan or Will Louviere, one of the record collectors who was finding early copies of it. And then from there, I instantly, I think the next day or that night, emailing Andy and Zach, like, how can I reach this album? Who are these people? Like, what is the deal? What's the story? And they put me in touch with some folks who were in touch with the Emersons and gave me a phone number for Don Emerson Sr., Donnie and Joe's father. And that started the process. This is probably 2010, I believe. And at that point, Jack Fleischer, he had already found the record, I think 2008. So it'd been 2 or 3 years later that I was hearing the record for the first time. From that point, I just started calling Don Emerson Sr., and he was very open to the idea of it being reissued. He did mention that there were other record labels interested too. And, at that point, Don was 80 or so, and, kind of started talking to Don a bunch. And then eventually I'm talking to Joe, and it kind of like took a while for them to let me talk to Donnie, or not let me talk to, but it just took a while for them to kind of feel they trusted me or had a good rapport with me and knew that I had good intentions. So then we ended up, went back and forth quite a bit, and eventually, the contract gets signed and we licensed the album. And, I really wanted to go out to the farm and meet them face to face and really, I've heard on all these phone calls learning so much about the place, and the place was such a significant role in the record, you could say.
Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Hello.
Hey, I like your story.
Finally get there and pull into the family farm in Fruitland, and we talked for a while. We ended up going out to the practice place, which is the little kind of log cabin they had built in the 70s to record the record in the studio. It was really powerful, and that room is just it really is just a spiritual little place. There's all this like red shag carpet on the walls, and their mom had made these really cute little blinds, and it just, it's like a time capsule. Times did a giant feature, and then the New York Times did this big feature, and that was clearly a big, moment, because the Times actually sent the writer Stephen Karutz out to the farm and a photographer, and they did this really beautiful piece on the whole story. And then from that piece, a film producer named Jim Burke, who produced Green Book and a number of other films, he read the New York Times article, loved it, and he gave it to his friend Bill Pohlad, the director, who made Love and Mercy about Brian Wilson and produced many other films and directed. And first Bill thought it was, I think he always says it was too Searching for Sugar Man, but then he heard the music and realized it was different and had its own special quality. And early on, I always thought, like, this needs to be a movie. I think everybody did, just because, maybe a doc, but in some form of movie, just because it's such a wild story that it's so beautiful. But it's a unique story, and in fact, there's not a lot of conflict in it. It's not your average rock and roll tale.
When I first heard that they was considering making a movie of our project, I was very surprised, and I was interested in that type of work. I've always enjoyed theatrical work, and I've expressed that with Bill a lot. This is a movie, not a documentary.
I thought it was gone. I thought it was far gone away. I guess
When I first watched the film in a private screening, a day or two after that we drove out to Fruitland, I thought I was in a film. I literally thought I was living something that was just on a screen. It was the weirdest thing. And I said, I think it was meant to be. It was supposed to happen. It was an interesting journey when we came up with this particular song. When they first came into town to do the shooting, we all got to get together with the producers, different people involved in the film, and they said, well, Donnie, we'd like to see you maybe write a song. I just look at it like, just keep moving forward, just keep moving forward.
Searching to find,
you just gotta just keep moving forward.
All of my wants and my needs, and they're all the time. My wildest dreams, when something's beautiful, you gotta let it show. When something's beautiful.
Dreamin Wild, to think that it would be going on, that would have this kind of an impact after 30 years. The appreciation from Light in the Attic, that really impressed me, made me feel really good. It just made me, you don't really have words, it just feels good. That some people out there understand the pure and innocence of an album that was done back then that still has some longevity. It's still kind of blossoming, you know what I mean? And that makes me really feel good. It's almost like the song never ends. It just kind of keeps going. And that's how I feel about it. It's cool.
Hey, this is Matt Sullivan from Light in the Attic. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Liner Notes. It's been a privilege to work with the Emersons, re-release their music, and be part of this wonderful story. The Dreamin Wild album, the movie soundtrack, and additional archival music from Donnie and Joe is available at lightinatic.net and at fine record shops around the globe, along with your favorite streaming service. The Dreamin Wild movie is available to stream now. A big thank you to the Emerson family for sharing their story, and thank you for listening. Liner Notes is a co-production of Light in the Attic and Ruinous Media. This and all episodes of Light in the Attic's Liner Notes are available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Did you have a good job? while it lasted? Did it make you feel like you were on top of the world? Did you feel good if you ever man now? Did it make you feel like a fool? Did you have a good time? Did you have a good time, love? Did you have a good time? Did you have a good time, love? Did you have a good time? As long as